Buddy, we're gonna get started here in 1 second. All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the live stream. Sorry about the delay. Uh, Welcome, happy Monday. We are officially 8 weeks out from the start of AP exams. So tonight's live stream is going to be SAQ secrets. We got webinar live and we have Facebook live. So if you're joining us on Facebook, go ahead and like the post, give us a greeting on the comments to make sure we know we see we're here. And webinar people, we see you as well. If you have questions during this, go ahead and raise your hand when you have a question. So if this is your first live stream, welcome. If this is, the fifth or many live streams, welcome back. So at Athletes in AP History, we help student athletes score 5s on their AP exams so they can earn that college credit without spending unnecessary time studying. And tonight we're going to talk about some SAQ secrets, but just a quick introduction of who I am and why did I start the page. So my name is Joe Sebastian. I have been in education for going on 14 years now. First as a history teacher and now as an assistant principal, but all throughout that time, a little off and on, I've been tutoring and coaching, and I am very passionate about helping students score college credit because I could see the possibilities, the flexibility, the opportunities it provides to many students. And one of the sayings I love, it's not mine, but it's from a close friend, but if we aren't teaching it, our kids aren't learning it. So we're going to talk about some SAQ secrets tonight. And last week, if you joined us, we reviewed the DBQ secrets, kind of broke down my trick to help you get all the points all the time, or at least 6 out of 7 of the points. But we went back to the SAQ, which we've covered kind of earlier in this broadcast on the channel on Mondays. I want to review it since we're getting closer to test prep season, that the SAQ is important. All the FRQs are important. So let's just break down. And, tonight we're just talking about the history exams. We are going to do a couple of segments on government and AP human geography, but the majority of our test prep students are in the master class are world and US, and we have a few AP European history students. The good news is all 3 of the history exams are identical in structure. So 40% of your exam comes from stimulus-based multiple choice, which means memorization alone will not help you. There is usually some kind of stimulus, whether it be a primary source, a secondary source, a quote, a picture, a diagram, a chart, a work of art, and they have sets of questions that go along with it. So you have to, at the minimum, apply knowledge. It is not recall. Some questions in AP Human Geography and AP Government are recall, but the majority of the test is stimulus-based for AP Histories. But tonight, we're going to look at 60% of the exam with free response questions, because that is where it comes from. Okay, so you have 60% of your exam comes from the free response SA questions, and that is the SAQ, the DBQ, and the LEQ. Tonight, obviously, we're focusing on the SAQ, the 4 SAQ secrets. Sorry, backwards there. So, and here is what the exam structure looks like. You have, out of that 60%, you have part 1 is split up into 2 parts. Part A is the multiple choice, part B is the SAQ. There are 4 questions. You have to answer 3 of them. You get 40 minutes to do that. That is worth 20% of your score. The DBQ, which we covered last week, you get 60 minutes. It's 1 question worth 25% of your score. And the LEQ, there is 3 questions of which you have to answer 1 in 40 minutes worth 15% of your score. So the SAQ, though some people think is easy, it is a really quick way to make or break your exam score. So many students, not just my masterclass students, but students I've tutored and other students turn to test prep to make sure that they are solid, because the philosophy of investing now and benefit later. This is a key way to earn college credit. So the FRQs can make or break whether or not you're going to get that score or not that you want. And you need to prepare, because failing to prepare means you are preparing to fail. So if you're not practicing outside of school, you're not going to be fully ready. Remember that 10% get fives, 15% get fours. You're looking at the top 25 percentile of students get that high level college credit. About 50% pass the exams. Not everyone accepts a 3. So what are you doing to prepare? We have 8 weeks left. Let's talk about the SAQ. Get all your points for the SAQ every time. And the secret number 1 is going to be the ACE method. So I don't know if any of you have heard of the ACE method. This acronym is not universal. A lot of teachers use it. Some teachers use something different, but whatever acronym works for you. I like ACE because that's what we want to do. We want to ace the AP exam. And it really stands for 3 things of something to remember: that you have to answer, cite, and expand. So quite simply, the SAQs have 3 questions per question set. So there's a part A, part B, and part C. For each one of those, A, B, and C, you have to have at least 3 to 4 sentences to have a chance at earning that point following this format: answer, cite, expand. So you directly answer the question. You don't necessarily need to restate the question, but you need to answer the question directly. Then you need to provide specific evidence to support your initial claim. And then you can provide historical context. So we're looking at actually the AP US History exam from 2022. I don't expect you to read this. We'll go over one here in a second. But the this one has, and I've seen this a lot now in the AP US History exam, 2 historians that disagreed. There's a quote from one historian set in 1949 and a quote from another historian set in 1987. 2 secondary sources of which they have to answer 3 questions, comparing differences or similarities and explanations. That has been a reoccurring theme in US history for question 1. Question 2 is now a primary source from John Mercer Langston, a petition to the Ohio State legislature in 1854. And now their students are expected to answer 3 questions using this information on question 2. Those both questions are required. And then question 3 or 4 have no stimulus. They have to answer one of these 2, and that's all parts A, B, and C. And it's usually split between the first part and the second part of American history. So you see the time frame there: 1492 to 1763 and 1880 to 1920. That's almost all the time, usually how the questions are split up. Not those exact years, but you have early years and later years. So let's look at the SAQ real quick here. Let me show you what we do and what we teach in our masterclass. So if you were on the channel last week, we introduced the DBQ template. I put together this ACE template for your SAQs. So hopefully you can see that pretty good. Narrow in here for a second. We're going to answer one right now live on the channel. So let me see which one we can do. Let's do question number 4. So excuse me while I type here. Briefly describe one way reform movements responded to economic conditions from 1880 to 1920. That's question 4A from the 2022 released exam. So let me pull that up here for a second so I can look at 2 things at once, make sure I'm giving you the correct answer here and how we answer this. Okay. So we're going to answer the question directly. So how that looks. One way, reform movements responded to economic conditions for the, let's see, were the passage of the Sherman Antitrust Act in the 1900s, I should say was the passage of the Sherman Antitrust Act in the 1900s by President Roosevelt. Boom, that answers the question. One way reform movements responding to the economic conditions was with the passage of the Sherman Antitrust Act. That's part one. So now I have to cite some specific evidence. I have to give specific proof. So we could take some examples. I'm just trying to think here. President Roosevelt. Spell. President Roosevelt started regulating trust during the progressive era, such as supporting labor strikes by unions who wanted an 8-hour work. So that is some specific evidence. So we've just got one way reform movements responding to economic conditions. So one way reform movements responding to economic conditions was with the passage of the Antitrust Act. President Roosevelt started regulating trust during the progressive era, along with supporting labor strikes by the union, or by unions who wanted an 8-hour workday. And so the passage of the 16th Amendment, which is a graduated income tax, is another example of changes in economic conditions during this time. So the one piece of caveat here is you don't always have to fully expand, but you want to make sure you're answering the question with the economic conditions. So briefly describe one way reform movements responded to economic conditions. So there was reform movements. We're saying that they passed the Sherman Antitrust Act in the 1900s. This is where he started regulating trust in the progressive era, along with supporting labor strikes and working out workday, and then also the passage of the 16th Amendment. So now one other way you could go about this is you could potentially define what the Sherman Antitrust Act is, which we kind of did, but I would probably go into a little bit more detail here, and then tie that back into how it helped economic conditions. But that is just a quick introduction to how we break this down, but we can give copies away from the SAQ templates if you would like them. But it is pretty straightforward, but that's the big secret, is that you need to have a plan of attack with the SAQ so that you can respond to it consistently. So what I'll usually do with test prep students is we will go through potentially and highlight some of your responses to make sure you have that full answer. The biggest mistake I've seen now doing this for many years is a couple things. One, they don't answer enough. One sentence only is not enough to get the point. Two, they answer the sentence, but they do everything except saying the specific pieces of proof. So without the specific pieces of proof, you can't get the full point. So it's something to keep in mind as we move forward. Okay, so that was an example. Just a quick, we'll have some questions here in a moment. Anyone on the live stream, go ahead and comment with questions if you're ready. People on the webinar, where are you guys at here? If you have any questions that you want answered, go ahead and raise your hand. But just a quick promo for our coaching program. If you want something where you're going to be exam ready guaranteed, I don't know if any of you have considered test prep, but we do have many test prep students with our masterclass. And I just kind of want to take a moment to talk about the inception of it, because it is kind of important why we are confident in the results that we get. So a couple years back, I was tasked with another tutoring company to help many of my test prep students score a 5 or 4 or 5 on the exam, basically get their goal scores. So this was an email from the head of the tutoring company, just basically saying we had a financial incentive tied to it about a raise of getting students to their goal scores, which was a huge undertaking. And oh, by the way, I was in the middle of writing my dissertation. So I just wanted to share kind of the first results of me actually putting together the masterclass a few years back. And since then, we've obviously expanded and done a lot more to it. But I blocked out the last names just to protect the students, but just in where their goal scores were and where their dates of their tests were and what the tests we actually prepared for, how we got those consistent results was using the process that we call the masterclass now. And it is pretty comprehensive because we do cover everything. We do cover the FRQs, how to do all this. We get personalized feedback with that. It is comprehensive content review. There's timed exams and essays, and it's fully flexible and it provides accountability. So if you are interested in learning more about how we can provide that exam ready guarantee, because we have a system, we have a process that works, it has been tried and true for the past couple of years now. It's worked during COVID and it worked outside of COVID. Go ahead and comment 5 on the live stream, or you can book an action call, and there's links on the page to book an action call. So I do want to have a moment here for people to have a chance to ask questions or talk about the SAQ or anything coming up. Remember, we are 8 weeks away from the AP exam. So questions from anyone on the Zoom or questions from anyone on the live stream? Right. Doesn't look like any comments. So hopefully that helped. If you do want a copy of our SAQ templates, leave us a comment on the Facebook page. I'll be sure to send you a message over. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Looking forward to coming back next week with probably the LEQ. And that'll be all 3 of the FRQs in 3 consecutive weeks. So again, if you want any help with one-on-one coaching for test prep, we still have some space available for our coaching programs, although space is getting limited. And we're probably going to do a last call because I do want to make sure everyone's getting the time that they need. But leave us a comment if you're interested, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you, everybody. Oh, we have 2 Q&A. Oh, here we go. So one question. What would you recommend plan of attack for the next 8 weeks of AP World? That's a good question. So I just let you know, I do the majority of my onboarding of students from 8 weeks out. 8 weeks is not, so I just I break everything down by quarters, right? Because fours are easier. I've had a lot of masterclass students, test prep students start in the last 4 weeks. That gives us the benefit and flexibility of time. So now the time is running out. I do have that game plan posted. This was an anonymous comment, so I don't know who said this, but I do have that game plan posted. You're going to have to double up the units of AP World, and you're going to have to work your way through that. So you can do that very easily with a review book. I recommend 2, Princeton Review and 5 Steps to a 5. That is included on our coaching program. But the thing is, you definitely have to review all the FRQs. So I do parallel structures. I review all the content in kind of sequential order because that's important because of contextualization. That's a historical thinking skill. And then I allow my students to practice all the FRQs. Now the review books have it. You just need to make sure someone grades it. So, you know, getting feedback is probably the most important thing of quality test prep with 8 weeks left, because if you have no one giving feedback to you, you're not going to be able to improve from where you are on the FRQ, and that is vital to passing this. Hopefully that answered your question. Another question, can you share how the coaching sessions are set up, times per week, hours per week? Okay, so the beautiful thing about the masterclass is there's 2 things. There's accountability built in because we do set up a game plan. And I built the program to be 100% flexible to your schedule. The whole idea of being athletes in AP history is a lot of students can't meet the same time every week. They can't commit to tutoring, or life happens. And then a lot of tutoring companies charge cancellation and you have to reschedule. It's a nightmare. We have an open scheduling system. So what that means is we set up a game plan of where students need to be. There is a little bit of independent work, meaning that they have to review some homework, a quick review of content. They have to take a couple of quizzes, and then I walk them through how to do some FRQs, and they submit that prior to us getting on coaching calls. So the coaching calls are built around their pacing, but the accountability piece is if they're falling behind, we make sure they don't fall behind. So what's nice about it is it's technically unlimited. They can get as much coaching as they need. And that's part of the exam ready guarantee. So it's not limited to just 1 hour per week. If they need to meet more than 1 hour or whatever they need to get them ready is what we provide. It is a very unique experience. So hopefully that answered the question. The schedule is a 7-day rolling schedule, so they can book their times as they need. So completely open scheduling. Another question about the game plan. Do you have a website game plan? There actually is if you're on the Facebook post, there's the game plan is another post. Just scroll down and just send me your name. So a lot of people have requested for the game plan, and I can kind of show that without being potentially redundant here for a second. Okay, so this post right here, the game plan, you comment that you want a copy. I usually reply that I got it and I'm sending you it over. So here's the thing, the Facebook message, if I'm not friends with you, it goes into message requests and then people never see their link. So I usually send over a message first because I can give you a specific game plan for your AP course. I have APUSH, AP World, and AP Euro listed there, but I have AP Government and AP Human Geography. So you just have to be specific, like just make sure you check your message, respond, and then I can get you a copy over to your email address or share you the Google link so that you can make a copy yourself. Hopefully that helped. We will send the SAQ templates. Awesome. How long weeks wise is masterclass? Again, completely flexible. It is as needed as long as it needs to be. Why I've started so many masterclass students earlier is because by the time you get done with the review, we then have practice exams, practice time exams. I make sure all of my students have taken multiple practice exams before they go in to take the test. It is one thing to know how to do any of this. It is a completely different thing to know how to do it in the time that's required. So the first time, just like being game ready, that's why you do scrimmages. The first time you take the time test should not be on the AP exam. So you want to make sure that you get that practice and time limits, and that's all built within our course. So in terms of answering that question of how long it is really it's as long as you need to be. If we set up an aggressive schedule for review, you can have a couple weeks to review, have a couple weeks to make sure you get those multiple practice exams in. Hopefully that answered the question. All right. Well, thank you all for joining. Thank you for your questions. Please go ahead and send me a message or send me a comment if you want to get in touch with me for help. I look forward to seeing you next week when we cover the LEQ and how to unlock the LEQ's full potential and make sure you earn all those points as well. So signing off for tonight. Thank you all. Have a good evening.